We are now 4 weeks into the college football season, and for the first time under Dabo Sweeney and in 21 years, the Clemson football program is 1-3, suffering losses to LSU at home, Georgia Tech on the road on a game-expiring, game-winning field goal, and um, now recently Syracuse 34-21 under Fran Brown. There's a lot of reaction from the Clemson Tiger fan base, a lot of criticism, a lot of panic, and it feels like stuff that's been happening over the past 5 years kind of came to an ultimatum this past weekend. I kind of felt that it came to an ultimatum, came to this picture that we see now with the football program against Georgia Tech. But I was willing to give the Syracuse game a shot a couple years ago when we lost to Duke, and when it was Cade Klubnik's first year starting, we lost to Duke, and then we lose to Florida State, and the program wasn't coming crashing down. Then it didn't feel that way. But the next week we went out and we handled business against Syracuse, and we were on the road. Uh, so we didn't handle business obviously this past weekend, and this time it wasn't just a couple plays. I don't think it was just a couple plays against LSU. I think they could have won that game um, however they wanted, to be completely honest. Um, it wasn't really just a couple plays against Georgia Tech, even though it came down to the last play of the game. Again, uh, a couple plays kind of kept us in that game. And a couple of the plays were plays that we made, but that game could have gotten far worse. Um, and it certainly wasn't a couple plays yesterday. From the first play from scrimmage to the last, it was domination, and Syracuse ran us out of our own building. It's not the first time this has happened. We have lost, I think, either 4 out of our last 5 or 5 out of our last 6 games to Power 4 opponents. In the past 2 years, we have seen at home losses to Syracuse, losses to LSU, South Carolina, Louisville. Um, we've seen 2 losses to South Carolina in the past 3 years, both of them at home. And Death Valley used to be a place that teams feared coming into, and quite frankly, it's just not now, as Troy had every opportunity to come into our building and beat us as well. And honestly, if it wasn't for two um, right place, right time interceptions against Troy, we could be looking at an 0-4 season. Now, we were in the right place at the right time, so credit to the defensive guys for being there and coming through. But this team has a lot of problems, and it starts up top, first addressing a little bit of criticism from Dabo Sweeney by the fan base. Uh, this fan base has every right to expect a different standard of Clemson football. You set the standard of Clemson football. Your motto is best is the standard. Well, this is certainly not best. This isn't great. This isn't good. I wouldn't even call this average. This is, quite frankly, pathetic football that we've been watching the past 4 weeks, and that has been slowly infused into the program over the past 4 to 5 years. This is just pathetic football. It's pathetic coaching, and it's pathetic on the field product. Um, we aren't we aren't bad fans for suggesting that we shouldn't be losing games like this to Syracuse. I don't expect national championships to be won every year. I don't expect us to make national championships every year, but I do expect us not to lose to Syracuse by 13 points at home and what probably could have been a worse score. I do expect us not to lose to Georgia Tech. I do expect us, honestly, to beat LSU. Um, you know, this is worse than what Clemsoning was. Clemsoning was winning the games against bad teams, mediocre teams, even good teams. But when it got to the big game, it was a team that couldn't finish and couldn't scale up. Well, we've seen that the past couple of years, but we've dropped below that now. Quite frankly, just an unacceptable level of play. And if you can't sit here and acknowledge that, then you are the problem. Now, I don't think Dabo Sweeney should leave Clemson. I hope he doesn't. I definitely don't think he needs to be fired. He is absolutely the right man for this job and the coach that can turn this program back around. But he has to be willing to make changes. And to sit there and suggest that there's nothing wrong with this program and to live in the past is absolutely outrageous. And if you want to live in the past, we can bring up some stuff from the past. So Dabo's first 2.5 years here, he was hired as interim coach. He finished that season 4-3. The next year, the team went 9-5. Then went 6-7, and there was some hot seat talk about Dabo. He then follows up the next 4 years with a 10-win season, going to the ACC championship, 11-win season, 11-win season, and then another 10-win season. The next year was when it started changing, or when it did change, and you could argue that this was, I mean, these were the glory years of Clemson and Dabo. 14-win season, losing in the national championship game. 14-win season, winning the national championship game. 12-win season with Kelly Bryant, losing in round one. Undefeated national champions, first 15-0 team in college football history. 14-win season, losing a national championship, so two undefeated regular seasons, 29-1 through 2 years, and then a 10-win season, which was the COVID year. And that was honestly when I think there were some cracks that were starting to show in the program, but it was masqueraded by Trevor Lawrence, ETN, and just other generational talent across the board. Um, the year after Trevor Lawrence leaves, DJU's first year, we have 10 wins. We rebound the next year with 11, but offensively was still just a mess. We then have a 9-win season in Cade's first year as a full-time starter, where we had to compete against Kentucky in the bowl game, the Gator Bowl, to pull that one off and get 9 wins. We were 8-4 in the regular season. Last year, we followed that up with a 10-4 season, losing 3 regular season games: Georgia, Louisville at home, and South Carolina at home, and then we get beat by Texas. And we had explosiveness on offense last year, but it only came against teams that weren't good. And I think that's where the hype bubble started building for this team, was the Texas game. We competed against the top 5, top 10 passing defense in the country last year, and Cade made plays. And that's where this expectation bubble built. But when you just look at the collectiveness of last season and last 2 years, it just hasn't been there. And if you go back and watch some of the plays that we made in that Texas game, man, some of those plays were just kind of lucky bounces of the ball in a way. A circus catch or a busted coverage or a broken tackle. It wasn't stuff that was scheme, and it wasn't stuff that was necessarily elite play. And I think we're seeing that now this year because the offensive scheme is going completely out the window. But to kind of summarize the past versus now, 2015 through 2020 was a 6-year streak where we went to 6-season span where we went to 4 national championship games, won 2 of them, including, well, both of them were against the greatest coach of all time. We won the ACC every year. We had 2 losses to unranked teams, Pittsburgh and Syracuse. The loss against Pittsburgh, we won the national championship that year. And then that Syracuse loss was with Kelly Bryant, and we were up in Syracuse. We also had 3 total regular season losses during that span: Pittsburgh, Syracuse, and then Notre Dame in the COVID year when Trevor Lawrence and ETN were out. And we had the loss to LSU in the national championship game and the loss to Bama. You have to go back to 2012, a 9-year span where we had 2 losses to unranked teams. Before that, we lost a little bit more to unranked teams. Since 2021, and four games into 2025 from 2021, which is about 4.5 years, we have 8 losses to unranked teams. We are 16-14 against teams that are 500 or better at the FBS level, and you just can't look at that and say that we're the same team. We had such a different level of play over that 6-year span in the mid-teens to 2020 compared to now. The offensive scheme flowed. Defensively, we were aggressive. We didn't take our foot off the gas pedal. If you go back to Trevor Lawrence's first year, man, I mean, we were dropping 60 and 70 on teams, and we just didn't care. You go back to look at that Clemson Louisville game with Trevor Lawrence in his first year. I mean, it was just beat down after beat down after beat down. You go to the national championship game, and it was a beat down, 44-16, and um, we just don't have that juice. Even last year, when the offense was clicking in some games, defensively the juice wasn't there. I mean, go back to the Clemson Virginia game last year, and we put our backups in, and Virginia just kept answering. They were just there. They were just there the entire game up until the end, and it was 40 to 30 something or maybe high 20s, but there was just noticeable lack of intensity and effort on defense, and you're certainly seeing that this year as well. Um, Syracuse against UConn averaged 1.6 yards per carry. Uh, they averaged 5.2 against us, or their running back did. They averaged 4.1 as a team. Um, that's just it's just inexplicable. Uh, UConn had better run defense against Syracuse on the road than the Clemson Tiger defense did against Syracuse in our home building. It makes absolutely no sense to me. Um, I didn't expect our run defense to go from what it was last year to number one in the country this year, but I did think there would be improvement, and it's just not there. LSU hit chunk plays on the ground against us. Troy hit chunk plays in the passing game and the run game against us. Georgia Tech just beat us down with the ground game. And then you look here at Syracuse, and they have multiple explosive plays on the ground, and not to mention the multiple explosive plays they had in the passing game. There was just no answer at all. There was just no answer. And I'm going to get into some more of those issues, but uh, there's a clear problem with the program. You can't hide behind a couple plays anymore. You can't hide behind the pass anymore because the pass isn't good enough to get you through this right now. We're not the Clemson of the past. Um, this is a culmination of issues over the past 5 years, from staffing to recruiting or just talent acquisition in general, to some other internal stuff that I'll never know about within the program. But what we put out on the field this past weekend and the weekend before that and the weekend before that and even against the LSU in the LSU game was unacceptable. And it's time to admit that, and it's time to be ready to make changes. You can't really make that many changes in the middle of the season, um, but you better be prepared to make them at the end of the offseason. I absolutely do not want Dabo Swinney to be the head coach of any other program, but he has to be willing to adjust if he wants to win games anymore. And I don't think it's bad as a fan to expect, especially when you're paying high ticket prices, high tailgate prices for parking. You're traveling to and from games every weekend, and you're donating to IPTE or whatever you're doing to be able to contribute to a successful football team. It's not wrong to be expecting wins, especially against teams like Syracuse. No disrespect to Fran Brown's team. So let's break it down by phase of the game here. Um, let's start off with offensive side of the ball. So we were 3 for 13 on third down, and we were 1 for 5 on fourth down. We had 8 total penalties for 75 yards. Now 3 of those were unsportsmanlike conduct, personal fouls on the defense. Some questionable calls there for sure on some of them. Obviously, the one on Hannafin wasn't personal, or it wasn't questionable. That was clear as all day. Uh, Late hit out of bounds, unacceptable play by him there. So you take away those 3 penalties, and it's 5 penalties, yeah, 5 penalties for 30 yards. Uh, Multiple of those plays were snap infractions or penalties for snap infractions and false starts, especially by Blake Miller, who is a 4-year starter who is like top 5 of snaps played in a Clemson uniform. Um, it's just inexcusable. Uh, there's just a clear lack of offensive identity. There's a clear lack of creativity in the offense, and there's a clear lack of cohesion in terms of going from play 1 to play 2 to play 3. Some of the announcers talked about it, and they called it ball handling. Don't really care how you call it, but the linking of the plays and the setup of our plays makes absolutely no sense. I do not have the knowledge that Garrett Riley does. I probably never will have the knowledge that Garrett Riley does, especially or and won't even come close to Dabo Sweeney. But I sit there and I wonder what we're thinking when we run some of the plays that we do. We ran all curls multiple times on critical downs yesterday, third downs, third and eights, and it hadn't worked all game, and we just ran it over and over. And there were 4 or 5 plays where I saw us run the all go or all curls play, and every single time it was an incomplete pass. Um, so that's where it starts for me offensively is scheme and culture on offense and just the cohesion of the unit. You know, Tony Elliott, that was a disaster with DJ's first year there. So then we go to Streeter the next year. Tony Elliott leaves, becomes the head coach of Virginia. Um, there was creativity in the offense, but there still just wasn't a lot of, of cohesion and fusion, and there wasn't any explosiveness, and there were still just a lot of issues. So then we go outside and we go get Garrett Riley, and it's just not there. And I'm not really sure why. He had it at TCU, he had it at SMU, but you look at TCU right now, and they have an explosive offense. Sonny Dykes is still the head coach there. Kendall Briles is their offensive coordinator. The continuity of their offensive explosiveness is there. And it just hasn't been there. The continuity of our offensive unexplosiveness is there, no matter who the OC is, no matter who the QB is. Um, I thought that we had found something against Georgia Tech with the little jet sweeps with Tyler Brown, and I thought we had some good screen actions worked in the Georgia Tech game. It was 5 minutes and 30 seconds until we ran our first jet sweep against Syracuse. 5 minutes and 30 seconds in the third quarter before we ran our first jet sweep. So then you look at that and you're just like, okay, Adam Randall has been uh, playing really well against his defense. He's breaking tackles, he's hitting holes, he's picking up yards. Quite frankly, he was our only form of sustained offense. And pretty much every call was inside zone, whatever our blocking scheme is. Get inside, get between the tackles. Maybe you find a hole on the outside, bounce it out. But a lot of it was inside the tackle stuff. That's what we did with Maffa too. That's what we did with Shipley. It was a lot of inside the tackle stuff. What better way to throw the defense off and keep them confused than to start throwing in some jet sweeps? You hit a couple outside runs with jet sweeps. Then you start using that jet sweep motion and you fake the jet sweep and hand off to Randall up the middle. Syracuse literally did it to us. They were killing us inside the tackles with their running back handing it off. They go under center, and Jonte Cook gets the handoff on a little end around sweep, whatever you want to call it, and he breaks out an 18-yard run. And it's just like, where is that for us? And it's just not there. There, I don't know why I'm sitting there thinking that and wondering why our coaches aren't thinking that either. Um, you go back to the LSU game, so much creativity in the short passing game and the screen game. We did a really good job of taking away their deep passing game, and honestly, outside of a couple of chunk plays, we did do a good job of taking away their run game. So what did they do? They used the short passing game and the screen game as an extension of the run, and they dressed it up with eye candy, with motion, with shifts before the ball was snapped. You know, I would think back to one play, they brought their wide receiver on a little orbit motion. You think the screen pass is going to him because they just ran that 3 plays ago. Their slot guy fakes a block, comes back in, and it's a tunnel screen. But the entire defense was caught off guard because we're focusing on the orbit motion. There, there isn't any of that with our offense. We rarely use motion, and I get that we're trying to play tempo, but you can do both. You can line up fast and send a guy in motion. Um, and honestly, if we played slow, I want us to play fast. I think we're best when we play fast. But if we play slow on a couple downs because we're dressing up our plays, so be it. If it gives the defense decisions to make before the ball is snapped, I'm fine with that. Make them make decisions on what we're doing and who to target and who to look at before the ball is snapped. That makes it easier on our quarterback. That makes it easier to identify potential. That makes it easier to identify our coverage or the covers that we're up against. It makes it potentially easier to look at a potential rush coming. You force the defense to shift. You force the defense confusion with their eyes. You create discipline problems with their eyes. Um, and you just open up looks with motion. I mean, so many teams are doing it. Texas, Steve Sarkisian is an absolute mastermind when it comes to using pre-snap motion. I mean, it seems like they use it on every single play, and we just don't have any of that. There's no creativity on offense. There's no uh, cohesion in terms of scripting drives. There's no taking what works and using it against the defense and using it to set up other plays. We got away from the screen game in this past game. I thought that we were getting good 5 to 6 yard chunk plays in the screen game against Georgia Tech, and we still don't use Cade Klubnik in an effective manner on the ground. I think that Cade Klubnik operates really well um, on kind of like unscripted plays when he's outside the pocket. Early in the game, we did like a little bootleg slash sprint out option or sprint out pass. Not really a bootleg, but a sprint out pass, and we hit Antonio Williams on a little out route. I think he does really well when he's outside the pocket. Um, he gets outside the pocket too much sometimes, but he's very good at adapting to plays as they happen, and he's very fast. And I do think he's pretty hard to bring down. And we don't have the same QB run game that we did last year, and it doesn't make sense to me because the staff is the entire it's the complete same. It's the complete same, um, and just some of that stuff just isn't there. When you look at our passing game, it just makes absolutely zero sense to me. It just feels like every single passing play that we run that is successful is a crosser over the middle of the field. We had the moon ball that Klubnik hit to Wesco this past game on the sideline that worked. But you even look at the Wesco touchdown against Troy that kind of got the offense rolling. That was a seam route from the slot roughly. Um, it just seems like we're trying to force something that's just not there. Um, Crossing routes, drags, delayed checkdowns. That's not there, and it should be. You look at the Wesco touchdown against Georgia Tech, the 70-yard. That was a crosser. Um, we have so much speed, and it just feels like we're not optimizing that because we're either having guys stop in the route, which allows the defense to come back to them, uh, or we're just trying to stretch the ball down the field. And I love stretching the ball down the field, but if it's not there and it hasn't been there, it's not just going to magically pop up in a game. And we're not taking what works and making it our offensive identity. I look back to when it was Tony Elliott and DJ, and you kind of look at that year, you're like, man, that passing game was really, really bad. We had a lot of injuries on the O line, a lot of injuries to the receiving core, but we adopted a mentality that we were going to run it down the opposing defense's necks just all game, and we we became a run first team. We started going into a lot more pistol. We started doing a little bit of two back action. And I just look at and say we adapted to what worked offensively. It still wasn't a good offense, but we adapted to what worked. And we're just not doing that. Just plain and simple, we're just not doing it. And I'm not really sure why the deep passing game isn't working because we absolutely have personnel for it, but it's not, and there's no adjustment to what does work. So moving a little bit outside of scheme now, we got to start next with the quarterback. I was a Klubnik guy even through yesterday up until his post game press conference. Um, I didn't want to question his leadership. I didn't want to question whether the team rallied around him. All I was simply going to question was his on the field play because his on the field play has certainly been spotty. I don't think it's possible to pinpoint the team's performance on him. Um, he's had some overthrows. He's had some bad reads. Um, he certainly has fair share of mistakes, but he also had some pretty incredible plays. And I also think that he does play with a lot of effort and a lot of passion and want to win. But I am going to question his leadership now because his post game press conference was one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard. He sat there and said that the reason that the offense got stalled in the second half and that the drives that they had going ended were because Syracuse players and the team were faking injuries and slowing down the drives and stopping progress and momentum. That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. Um, if that's good enough to stop our offensive momentum, then plain and simple, we just don't have a good offense because teams have done that in the past and it hasn't really worked. Um, to sit there and say that is just absolutely unreal. It shows zero ownership, shows zero accountability. You missed throws, you made some bad reads, you made a lot of good plays too, but you didn't play a perfect game. And the 2nd and 3 that turned into a 2nd and 8 from a Blake Miller offsides that and the drive then basically went 3 and out after that. We went 3rd and 8 and then didn't convert. That wasn't a Syracuse player faking an injury. That was offensive. That was terrible execution from your offensive players. Um, that is the worst excuse I've ever heard for what I saw offensively yesterday. Uh, so I am questioning it now. The QB play hasn't been great. It just hasn't been. I don't think it's fair to blame Cade for all the issues. Quite frankly, I don't know if Vizina or Chris Denson can do any better. I actually don't really think they could. I don't know. I don't think Denson's ready for that. I don't think it'd be fair to put the pressure that this offense and this team is feeling on him, even in a reset. I don't really know how that locker room dynamic would work after that. Maybe it is just a reset and we're just starting fresh and just do what you can and see what happens and there's no pressure on it. But there's a untenable position, untenable pressure that's been put on the quarterback position at Clemson over the past 2 to 3 years, from the expectations from previous quarterbacks to then how it fell off with DJ and now Cade. Um, I've watched Cade this year have some incredible plays with his arm. He's put some incredible balls into some tight windows, and I've also watched him have some really bad plays that have thrown off offense. I mean, he just plain and simple missed the pass to TJ Moore. Maybe that changes the game. Maybe it doesn't. We still would have been down if he had hit it, and that's assuming TJ Moore scored. And if he didn't score, then our offense finishes the drive. But there's been mistakes. The QB play has been spotty. It's been inconsistent. It was spotty and inconsistent last year. There's been no development at the QB position in Garrett Riley's 3 years here. DJ didn't develop. We tried Tashan Famkana during DJ's year. Didn't work. Putting Cade a little bit the next year. He takes over the job going into the bowl game after basically winning it against North Carolina in the ACC championship. And it's just been very average play. We've had some great moments and we've had some bad ones. I think after last season, um, you know, Cade Klubnik really did have a good year. A lot of it was against bad competition, but he really did have a great year. And I think that the expected development, you know, that certainly hasn't carried over. But it hasn't even just been development hasn't carried over or happened. He's undeveloped. He's gotten worse, and I don't know. I don't know how to explain that. I don't know if Dabo knows how to explain it. I don't know if Garrett Riley knows how to explain it. I don't think Cade knows how to explain it. But it's just gotten worse. The play has gotten worse. Um, and he hasn't been on the same page with his receivers this year. Now, that's a whole other issue. Um, the receivers haven't been on the same page with Cade. Even when they have, there hasn't been separation. That could be a scheme issue, play calling issue. I'm not going to sit here and dissect every play call because I'm not smart enough about football to really do that. But there hasn't been separation down the field. We've been saying that for 5 years now, um, and it just hasn't gotten better. And now drops are a problem this year. Uh, I, they weren't a problem last year. It's an even better receiving core this year. Don't know what to do about that. Um, I think the bigger problem is that we don't develop our wide receivers anymore either, and that's a position coach's fault. Um, Justin Ross, his development got hampered by injuries. He was injured, can't help that. I kind of thought Ladson and Ngata would have developed, but they weren't that good. Ngata was hurt and beat up a lot. Ladson transferred, didn't really do much as his second school. I think he's on his third school now. Um, EJ Williams, though, his freshman year looked like he was going to be the next big Clemson wide receiver, and he just got worse and worse. Antonio Williams is really the only receiver who uh, developed, and I thought over the past 2 years that Tyler Grissom had done a good job of coaching our receiving unit, our wide receiver unit. 2 years ago, in Cade's first year starter, Williams got hurt, and Tyler Brown came in and he had his freshman breakout season. And it was like, okay, the receiving core kind of gelled at some points in the year and played good, and you had Tyler Brown break out. And then last year, we have a lot of youth and experience. Tyler Brown gets hurt. Cole Turner wasn't able to play; he got hurt too. Antonio Williams was banged up a little bit throughout parts of the season as well. But you saw Wesco and Moore just take off, just absolutely take off. And it's like, okay, so maybe we just didn't have dudes in our position room. Well, now you look at this year, and Tony Williams has been hurt again. Tyler Brown isn't really getting used. Cole Turner is on the field for Hail Marys and jump balls on the sideline. Wesco periodically throughout games has butter for hands, and Moore just feels like he's not even a part of the game at some points. I'll give Moore all the credit. The downfield blocking he had against Georgia Tech was absolutely fantastic, and he turned it on a little bit yesterday. But it just feels like he's non-existent. And I'm not even saying that's a TJ Moore issue. That's our coaches not putting him in a position to get the ball, and that's a development issue as well. Um, that's a development, a scheme, an execution issue, and that falls on the coaches. And I mean, it falls on the players too. But I just don't understand why our receiving core just seems to get worse every year. Antonio Williams was back for this game, and it was supposed to be the missing piece to the offense. And he got some targets, but he certainly didn't get enough. And he was kind of eliminated from the contest throughout a lot of the game. Um, Wesco had another big play. Uh, Moore finally got involved. But the receiving core is just not there. Our receivers regress. They just do. And that's a quarterback issue. That's a play calling issue. But it's also a coaching issue. And I think there's a clear one now. I think there's a clear coaching issue in our position room for wide receivers now. Um, so now we'll just go to the next position group, and that's the O line. 4 starters returning on the O line. Going into this season, Dabo claimed to have 8 or 9 guys that could go out and start game 1. I don't even know if we have 3 guys that could go out and start game 1 realistically. Tristan Lee gets beat off the line of scrimmage on a 3-man pass rush. I mean, Cade Clemson gets the ball, and this is at the end of the game. It's a 3-man pass rush. As soon as he gets the ball in his hands, he's got to take off. Tristan Lee gets beat off the edge. Blake Miller, one of the most played offensive linemen in Clemson football history, multiple false starts. It's just unacceptable. Um, Harris Sewell on the speed option on 4th down late in the game when we were in their territory. The defender makes a great play. Cade makes a great play. Fakes the pitch to Randall and heads upfield. If Harris Sewell hits that block, Cade may have scored a touchdown. But instead it's turnover on downs because Sewell pulls too wide. That's unacceptable for how experienced his offensive line is. And quite frankly, it's unacceptable for an offensive line in general, no matter if it's 5 true freshmen playing when it's coached by Matt Luke. I think Matt Luke's an incredible offensive line coach. He's obviously very well respected among the coaching industry. That's an attention to detail issue. That's an effort issue in my opinion. Um, I would have rather seen Sewell get called for holding on the defender in that scenario than just let him blow past him. At least then you still have another down to get it. Um, the offensive line has just been just it's just been absolutely awful this season. Missing blocks, blitz protection has been terrible. Um, every now and then there's a hole in the run game, but it really just feels like Randall has to fight and chip and push for yards. And with 2 years now under Matt Luke, and with the amount of experience we have returning and the claims made coming out of camp, I just don't understand how the product on the field has been this bad. Eric McLean just broke it down. There's a lot of missed blocks on every single play from passing to run game. It's just a unit that's just out of touch with the game and with the offense. And I think a lot of the problems that we see in the passing game come from that. I think that Cade has happy feet, yes, but when he's facing pressure on a 3-man rush when the ball gets in his hands, what do you realistically expect from your quarterback? It just makes absolutely zero sense to me. Um, it's just been hard to watch the offensive line play because it's just been bad. It's just been bad offensive line play. Uh, they've been beat by Syracuse, Georgia Tech, Troy, LSU. It's just there's not many words for it, but just bad. And I don't know if it's an effort issue. I know there's a lot of people saying that the effort and the intensity isn't there, and the NIL checks cashed, and the players cashed them and don't, or some of the players have cashed them and not, not playing with full effort anymore. Maybe that is what it is. It's hard for me to sit here and say that Matt Luke's the issue. Matt Luke gets his own guys in next year, so we'll see then. I think he should stay around as a coach. Um, so we'll go to the running back position room, then morph one more topic in on tight ends and receivers again. Adam Randall's been great. I think Spiller's done a great job with him. I think Adam Randall gets way too many touches, not in the sense that we're running the ball too much, because I think our run game is our lone bright spot right now. But we saw what happened when we run a workhorse back into the ground last year with Maffa. He just got absolutely beat up at the end of the season. Multiple injuries, played through him, and you could just see. I mean, the Texas game, man, he tried, and the first time he was hit, he was out, and he didn't go back in pretty much. And we're doing the same thing to Adam Randall. He's had his issues. He's missed a couple blocks in pass protection, mainly against LSU and Troy. His first 2 games playing running back full time. He's learning how to hit holes. But yesterday, man, if he didn't hit him, I don't know what you call him. I mean, he had some explosiveness to him. He put his shoulder down. He broke tackles, and he was our only sign of life offensively against Georgia Tech and Troy, or against Georgia Tech, except for the Bryant Wesco touchdown. But the Troy game, he's the one who got the offense rolling. He's the one who was sustaining drives against Georgia Tech. He's the one who was sustaining drives against Syracuse. And you know, we didn't use him at all at LSU, so you don't even know what to say about it then, because he got 1 touch in the second half, 1 carry. Um, he's had the fumble issues. That fumble in our red zone practically after we got the ball back in the second half, that was killer. That to me was kind of the end of the game when he fumbled that. But I won't knock him, because he's one of the few people that I'll look at play and say, man, that dude is giving it his all on the field. He plays with a lot of passion, a lot of energy, and I appreciate that as a fan, because I haven't seen that out of other people who should be playing that way. So final thing offensively I want to touch on is the substitutions, or the snap counts for our players. Just I don't understand them at all. I think we need to be using our tight ends way more. Olsen Pat Henry has made 2 incredible catches. I don't know how many catches he has. It's not many. Not because he's not catching the football, but because he's not getting targets. The LSU game, he got folded in midair and he came down with the ball. And he battled for a catch yesterday that was either a first down or put us 4th and inches or something. I think it was 4th and 1, because then Pee-woo got the handoff in the jumbo package and picked up the first. But he's an athletic freak of nature, it seems like. I mean, he's just made some incredible plays, and that catch against LSU is just an unreal catch. I have no idea how he didn't get hurt, but B, he came down with the football. Um, he needs more targets. Christian Bedenkure needs more targets. He needs more time on the field. He's a very fast tight end. Why can't we go 2 tight end looks? The passing game is certainly not working with 3 and 4 wide sets. So why not put 2 tight ends on the field and give us some flexibility with formations on disguising run plays and pass plays? Why not give it a shot at least? We had one play that I saw was 2 tight ends and we passed. It was like a little drive concept, a little drag underneath, and then like a 10-yard in route from Olsen Pat Henry with 2 tight ends. And Klubnik, I mean, the play was blown up when Klubnik got the ball in his hands, because the pass rush just broke home immediately. They certainly need more targets. But the big thing is, where is Tristan Smith? I can answer that question. He's on the sideline. And my question really is why? The screen pass that was called back for a touchdown when his knee hit the ground. But the effects, the show that he put on after he scored that was obviously one of passion for playing the game of football and trying to win. He made stuff happen on the kickoff return, and then he had that reception yesterday against Syracuse, and he's out there breaking tackles, being shifty, forcing people to miss, and he just looks like he cares when he gets the ball in his hands. he could be the worst receiver on the team, which he's not. He's not. He might be top 3 on the team. He might be top 2 on the team. But just off of his energy for the game and his intensity for winning alone should be getting him more reps compared to what we're putting out on the field right now. And why Cole Turner is getting a jump ball on the sideline and is in for the Hail Mary, and Tristan Smith is not, who's 6'5", and 6'8" Ian Shefflin, who just played basketball for 4 years, isn't there on the Hail Mary. I don't understand it all either. It just kind of seemed like a wasted play. And I'm going to talk about that sequence of plays in a little bit when we get to coaching. But next up is defense. I think there's stuff to be said about the snap counts for that too, looking at who's playing what. But honestly, with the way our starters been playing, maybe they don't need to play anymore. This defensive line was supposed to be vaunted. It was supposed to be feared. It was supposed to wreck games before they even got started. And it just hasn't. I mean, 2 preseason top 5, top 10 draft picks, and Peter Woods and TJ Parker have been nowhere to be found in the backfield. I know Peter Wood supposedly had that leadership speech in the halftime of the Troy game. Where's it at on the field? There's zero pass rush. There's just zero pass rush, and there's zero stuffing the run. They average 1.6 yards per carry against UConn. Their starting running back averages 5.1, and their team averages 4.2 or 4.1 or whatever. How? It's Syracuse. It's Syracuse. It's Clemson versus Syracuse. They should be averaging 1.6 yards per carry against us. And we got run out of our own building. They scored at will. They had 300 yards in the first half alone. I've just never really seen anything like that. Yeah, we've had some games in the past where our defense got burned, but man, it just feels like it's a culture issue. And I thought Tom Allen was going to come in and fix a lot of that, but what I kind of think is that Wes Goodwin maybe eroded some of that defensive culture we had because he was there for too long as a defensive coordinator. Tom Allen certainly hasn't been perfect. I think a lot of his play calls have been some head scratchers. I think some of his scheme has been head scratchers. I mean, regardless of intensity and effort, the talent that we have should be able to scheme up some sacks. Honestly, we shouldn't need to scheme up sacks, but obviously we do, and we still can't. So it's time for Jaheim Lawson, Amari Adams, Vic Burley, those guys to get more reps. A couple other guys that slip in my mind right now, but it isn't there. I mean, Will Help, thank you for playing football for us. Yeah, the defensive line has just been an absolute disappointment. Nick Eason, Chris Rumpf, I don't know what's going on there. I think they're good coaches, but there's obviously something going on in that position room, whether it's coaching, attitude, intensity. I mean, that stuff kind of comes from the coaches too, but it's not there. Linebackers. Blocks are getting to the second level. Sammy Brown's made some really good plays. Wade Wood has made some really good plays. Kobe McLeod has made some really good plays. Blocks are getting to the second level. Yeah, they're getting beat in some coverage scenarios. It's an issue. Blocks getting to the second level is an issue. That's a defensive line and a linebacker issue. And then in the defensive back room, thank goodness we have Avion Terrell and Ronan Hannafin. I mean, Ronan Hannafin's had some mistakes. He had that terrible personal foul yesterday, but he's got a nose for the ball. He can test every pass. Avion Terrell contests pretty much every pass. We're getting beat in one-on-one coverage. We're getting beat on jump balls. We're getting beat in zone. We're getting beat in man. Break it down by zone. We're getting beat in cover 2, cover 3, cover 4, cover 6. Whatever coverage we want to run is getting beat. Ashton Hampton is getting beat. Jaden Lucas, man, I don't understand the issues he's having. I think it's time I think Strozier had a couple good plays. He needs to be in more. Khalil Barnes being out isn't a good enough excuse. Going into the season, my biggest concern wasn't the running back room. It was the DB room. I was worried about life after Avion Terrell. And so far, I mean, that's just a massive issue. I mean, they've just been getting picked on just all game long against whoever they get picked on, whether it's a screen pass, a 6 yard crossing route, a deep ball, a one-on-one jumper in the end zone. They're just getting beat. And Mike Reed and Mickey Khan, what's the answer to that? And then you just look at team at defensive at unit wide on the defense. Tackling has just not gotten better. And the message was this offseason, the message that was supposedly being instilled into the team was Clemson is going to be the best tackling unit in the country. Haven't seen it yet. Don't think I'm going to see it. I watched multiple plays yesterday, one from Avion Terrell, one from Jaden Lucas, where they watched the running back break it to the outside on him. Watched him. I saw the play with Avion Terrell. He was signaling towards, I think, Ashton Hampton about something. So I don't know if he was expecting help and he was trying to cover the inside. I don't know if he was expecting help on the perimeter. But the perimeter tackling has been awful. The tackling in general has been awful. That's defensive line, linebackers, corners, safeties. It's been terrible. Um, and that's an intensity issue for sure. There's definitely, even last year, even the past couple years when I've said intensity has been off, I've never felt like the defense wasn't playing with intensity. There were plays when it felt like it could have been there and it wasn't, or it could have been there more. But I don't know how you can say some of this is on. I mean, some of this is on coaching for sure with scheme and talent development, and then coaches not being able to get people to play with intensity is an issue. But at some point, man, like you've gotta just have it in you. Like, I mean, not to call out anybody, but Peter Woods and T.J. Parker, man, like we should be able to play 2v5 on the D line and O line against Syracuse, and y'all should be able to go make plays happen. And they just haven't happened. And there's noticeable effort issues. There's noticeable plays where it's just like guys are just giving up on the play, and starting to see it on the sideline a lot yesterday too. But another thing is, and this kind of transfers into offense defense as a whole. I think a big problem with this team is killer instinct in the culture. We used to have that. Um, we definitely had it with Venables. We had it with Jeff Scott and Tony Elliott. But, multiple games last year, it's like foot was taken off the pedal. Teams were able to get back in it. Look at SMU. We couldn't pull away from South Carolina, and we gave up the lead. Louisville came into our building after playing 7 games of football, facing us on a bye and a night game in Death Valley, and ran us out of our own building. We take the lead against Georgia Tech and give it right back up and can't finish the game. We go into the second half down 16-3 against Troy. We have the lead against LSU at halftime, and we give it up. There's no killer instinct. And I'll tell you what killer instinct is. Killer instinct is marching down the field on the first drive of the game, scoring a touchdown, smelling blood in the water, and kicking an onside kick on the next play, or on the kickoff. That's killer instinct. And we don't have that. I look at the Georgia Tech game as a prime example of that. The last drive of the game, for Georgia Tech, they practically ran the same QB run play over and over and over. And especially on the last couple plays where they did that to get into the final field goal, final spot, final yard for the field goal. I would have rather us manned up and gone cover 0. And if they wanted to take a shot over the top of us and test our corners one-on-one, fine, do it. And if they beat us, fine. But at least we're not letting them run it just down the field on us with Haynes King. At least we're looking like we care a little bit defensively to try and stop what's coming. LSU did it to us with a screen pass. They ran the exact same screenplay, just on different sides of the field, like 4 plays in a row. And it's just like, what are we doing? Offensively, no killer instinct to finish drives. We get down the field multiple times at the start of the third quarter yesterday. Cannot finish the drive. Shoot ourselves in the foot. And that's happened for years now. That happened against Georgia last year. The a key drive in the game. We had a huge passing play down the field. I think it wasn't Antonio Williams. It might have been to the tight end. But regardless of who it was a huge passing play to I think it was in the second half or really late in the first. A chance to flip some of the momentum that is starting to shift. And Adam Randall at receiver, false start. And the drive's over after that. There's no killer instinct. I look at the Georgia Tech game again, and I'm just like, we open up the third quarter and just drive it right down the field. And Cade makes a bad read. I think a lot of it was a great play by the defender, but still probably shouldn't have thrown that pass. And the next drive we have a wide open look to Olsen Pat Henry, but the block didn't hold up, and Cade's hit as he throws the ball. And it's not like he held the ball too long. He just he just couldn't help it. I mean, there's a lot of times where the offensive line has just failed, and that was one of them. And we just shell up. We just get scared. And there's no killer instinct on offense. There's no killer instinct on defense. There's no killer instinct on recruiting either. We're losing battles. I know we've had some big wins, but we've also lost some pretty big battles, and we've had a ton of decommitments last year. And realistically, we're probably going to see some decommitments this year. I know there's been some commits that have said they're still locked in. That's awesome. Love that. Glad they're going to be coming to the program. But there's just no killer instinct in the program, and I think that's the biggest cultural issue that Dabo Swinney has lost here. I think a lot of these problems stem from that. I think the killer instinct issues on the defense comes from the fact that for the past 3 years, we had a terrible defensive culture. There was no passion from the head man of the defense. Um, Offensively, I don't know what the killer instinct problem is. I mean, it's just there. It's just been there. Um, but that's a huge thing. One more phase of the game before I go into a couple more coaching things I want to call out. Special teams. So Clemson historically has been an awful special teams unit. I want to say we've been outside the top 100 in special teams every single year since 2014. If not, it's been almost every year. And the years that we still weren't good. Um, we've never had a special teams coordinator. For the longest time, it was Mike Reed. Going into this year, we shuffled the staff around, and Mickey Kahn, I believe, uh, is our special teams coordinator. Um, it's inexcusable at this point. I mean, there's multiple programs who make special teams a core tenet of their identity, and it wins them games. South Carolina is one of them. How many times have they downed 3 years ago when they beat us at home and 31-30 and knocked us out of the playoffs? Did they down a punt inside our 15-yard line? They won the Georgia Tech game because Bakari Swain returned a punt return. They had the lead before that. I don't know if they would have kept it, honestly. Um, they had 2 punt returns for a touchdown against South Carolina State. You take those away, the score is 24-10 against South Carolina State. Notre Dame makes special teams. They play complementary football all 3 phases of the game. It's 2025. It's time to take special teams seriously. How we didn't take it seriously after last year is beyond me. We had 7 blocked kicks, 7 blocked field goals. I can't tell you the last time we've had a punt return or a kickoff return for a touchdown. Adam Randall had the good one last year against SMU that wasn't a touchdown but set us up for the game-winning kick. Tristan Smith had a great one yesterday. But we don't block punts. We don't return punts well. And we look clueless in all 3 phases of the game. But the touchback that we had yesterday just was about as clueless as it gets. We have 4 or 5 guys down there. The punt is absolutely perfect. The bounce is absolutely perfect. And we jump and catch the ball and come down on the goal line instead of throwing it back in to one of the 3 other guys that was there to down the ball inside the 5. Just an absolutely clueless play. to complement clueless offense and clueless defense. That's just unacceptable. Like, that's just unacceptable. Special teams coordinator or not, but it's time to go get a special teams coordinator. And it's time to play true three phases of the game football with Clemson. Um, Kind of building off of that, the end of the half yesterday was really, really concerning to me. The play from Adam Randall to get us down the field, the run, awesome. And then we do actually rewind just a little bit. Before that, we get the stop, and Dabo takes like 3 or 4 extra seconds before calling timeout. And it's just like, why? Because it ended up costing us a chance at the field goal or another chance to throw the ball down the field if that's what we wanted to do. So then we finally call timeout. We get the ball. We run the ball with Adam Randall. We set up nice. Great execution by the team to spike the ball and save the timeout. So we spike the ball, and then we all huddle up on the sideline like we call a timeout. So then we get back to the sideline or to the field to snap the ball, and there's like 8 seconds left on the play clock. So then we have to call the timeout that we saved with the spike, which then takes away our ability to run the ball up the middle or throw it over the middle and get down quick and call timeout. So we have to take the outside shot. Wesco drops the football on a great pass by Cade, a great play call. And then we can't decide if we want to send the special teams unit out to kick the ball or not. So then we end up throwing the Hail Mary with Cole Turner ran over 6'5" Tristan Smith and 6'8" Ian Shefflin. Absolutely mind-boggling coaching error there. There was a coaching error in the Texas game last year when we mishandled a goal line situation that pretty much was the dagger in the game. Um, Georgia Tech, I don't have a problem with Dabo not calling timeout on the fault or the fire alarm field goal. I do have a problem with the way we approached defense that last drive, and I do have a problem with the way we approached offense. We got the ball with what, 8, maybe 7 minutes left, 9 minutes left, and we treated it like it was 5 or 6 minute offense, and we treated it like they would need like a touchdown to win the game or a field goal to even tie. No, they needed a field goal to win the game. So we take off like 6 or 7 minutes of clock on that last offensive drive, give them 2.5 minutes left in the game to go down the field and kick a game-winning field goal. Just bad situational football. Yesterday, multiple downs where it was 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. We run a passing play that's dropped incomplete. I think that was a turnover on downs. We have the zone read play with Cade where I think he made the wrong decision and pulling the ball and trying to get it himself. We have the speed option call, which I think actually was a good call. It was just played perfectly by the defense, and then we missed a block. There's like a 3rd and 8 or a 4th and 8, and we take a shot down the sideline. There's just poor situational football all around, and that's a pure coaching issue, really. Um, and it's just been really bad, and it really does feel like the program is up in flames right now. Um, I was worried that the program had already gone off the tracks, but yesterday it certainly did. Yesterday was an epic collapse, and it sucks watching as a fan, but it's very interesting to see, and it'll be interesting to see the solutions that are taken. There's got to be something that's fixed. I mean, portal is one, but there's got to be stuff done with staffing. I think from stuff that's not on the field, like strength and conditioning, to position coaches, to coordinator or coordinators, or really coordinators, OC and special teams, um, maybe even defense. But there's got to be something that's done. There's got to be a lot of things that's done. It can't be a position coach hire here, another year down the line, another position coach hire. There has to be immediate change brought. Going to release some videos over the next couple weeks going into the next game, kind of outlining some things that I think should happen to fix these issues. I'm just a diehard football fan, especially Clemson football. I don't have access to coaching circles. I'm not. I don't know all. I know a lot of X's and O's. I know honestly a lot of advanced X's and O's, but I certainly don't know what Dabo knows, what Tom Allen knows, what Garrett Riley knows, what any of our coaches know. but I do have some opinions on some things with the staff and other things that need to be changed. And over the next couple of weeks, we'll just kind of throw out my unwanted opinion out there. But um, before I end the video, the fan base, Dabo wasn't right in saying what he said about the fan base and saying, he'd just leave or fire him or whatever. But he is right about the fan base. The fan base is absolutely pathetic. Um, Calling for him to be fired is outrageous. Um, it's knee-jerk reaction. It doesn't make any sense. And booing our own team at home, chanting for our offensive coordinator to get fired at home, chirping our players on the sideline at home. That's just absolutely unreal. I don't care what you want to post on TigerNet. I think a lot of the stuff that I'll just post on TigerNet is just people who watch, you know, 12 Clemson games a year. Thanks for watching the Clinton games, but they don't understand football and they just spout out opinions. That's fine if you want to do that. But the other stuff, man, that's absolutely atrocious. Um, it's terrible. And it makes the program look bad. And if you do want to fire Dabo, what promising rising head coach is going to want to come coach their program that's willing to do that? So there's got to be change there starting right now with the fan base. I know this is probably going to get like 10 views, but that's got to change. Hopefully, at least one other Clemson fan sees this and is willing to rally behind the team. So for the team too, what's got to change right now is that you just got to go out and try to win the next game. This team could very well go 2-10 with our only other win being Furman. This team was also talented enough to go 12-0. Obviously, we're not going to do that anymore. So, got to take it week by week and try to go 1-0 every week. And there's got to be some sweeping change. But this has been an absolute disaster start to the season. And the program has really been thrown off the tracks. And it will be very interesting to see what steps are taken, if they are taken, by Dabo to fix it.